Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of the Dark Figures Podcast. I am Ryan. This is my co-host, Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Welcome back for another episode. If you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that like, that follow, and that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can see when we put out new content and new videos for you to see. But today we have a special guest in the studio here, Mr. Mark Moots, formerly of December, Swamp Donkeys, and currently of Weight of the Tide, and also a local tattoo artist here at Mark Studios. Welcome, Mark.
And that's not a band. That's
not a band, but... An artist all around.
Well, we always try.
Yeah.
How are you guys?
Good.
Awesome. Thanks.
I gotta
for having
say,
me.
I gotta start off by saying I am super jealous because back in 2015 you got to open up for one of my bucket list bands, 36 Crazy Fists.
Oh yeah,
dude. I grew up with those guys thanks to a buddy of mine who introduced me to them back when I think it was when Snowcap Romance album came out, and I was like, oh my god, these guys are great. Like, how have I not heard of these guys? And then when I heard they were coming, I was like, oh, I want to go to see that show, and I never got to. Yeah. And now you got to open for them.
Yeah,
twice.
Yeah, yeah. We did Tahoe and PB and J's or whatever.
Yeah, on 4th Street.
Yeah, Whiskey Dicks and PB and J's. It's funny. I like that band, and on paper, there's nothing about that band I should like.
Yeah.
But I enjoy the great riffs, great drummer.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting vocals.
Yeah. Very interesting.
But we've played with them twice, and I've never seen them.
Really?
Because I left both times because I had to go.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The family thing.
I was always like, oh, this is gonna be fucking cool, and then it's like, no, I gotta split.
Yeah. Right.
But they're nice dudes.
Yeah.
Was it a weekday show?
Fuck, I don't know.
You're like, just go with it.
Yes, 2015.
I'll be brutally honest about almost anything. So I just was like, I gotta go. I don't want to be here till 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Especially Tahoe.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was Mike and I last night.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the Whiskey Dick shows are awesome, but that drive home is not.
Yeah.
And
especially during the wintertime.
Yeah, it can get real sketch.
Yeah.
And I think the Whiskey Dick show was like right around Halloween. So
it's a hit or miss.
Yeah.
You either nothing
before
or you have something. Yeah.
Yep.
You're either before or after a storm or right in the middle of it.
Yeah, and I've seen all of it, and none of it's good.
Yeah.
So cool band. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've been around for. How long have you been playing in the music scene?
Since 1986.
God damn! Look at you.
Yeah, old man.
No kidding. What? You say that.
I will.
But I mean, you got to think. I mean, when it comes to music, and especially like when you look at larger bands, like there are bands that didn't even survive the 90s.
Yeah.
And to think that you've been playing around in the scene since 86, that's an accomplishment in itself.
The same genre of music?
Yeah, all metal.
Is it all metal?
I was in high school in 86, so I had like kind of I was the lone thrasher in a glam band. And then high school ended, so I started kind of a thrash band for a while, and then that begat the next band and the next band, and then here we are, basically.
Just off and on, trying to find that pocket where it
never
fits.
Stopped. I discovered something about myself pretty early in life is that I don't know how to not do this. And I'm not I've been playing guitar since 85 or whatever, and but I don't sit in my room and play. Like, I don't like just jamming by myself. I actually find it really boring. So I need to be, I guess it's like part of my self-identity is that I'm a band guy.
Yeah, collaboration.
Right. Yeah, and like I just like being in a room with my dudes, loud amps in the face.
Yeah.
And like that collaboration, that like kind of brotherhood community thing is really important to me.
Right.
So I just never stopped doing it. And I mean, you guys play in bands, so you can see the writing on the wall when something's starting to get a little...
Yeah.
So as soon as I started seeing anything get wobbly, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm already looking several steps ahead.
Right.
Maybe I keep this guy and this guy
and
do something else.
Yep.
And luckily it's worked out.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's kind of the drive around music, because you get to create your own thing, and you get to be a part of something that either you're hoping to make it big, right? I mean, that's all. That ultimately, that's the big dream, right? You get that noticed, that representative from whatever company or whatever it is. That's like,
Or just somebody that appreciates
I'm
the
here to
music.
help you. I want to put you somewhere. I want to get you on this platform and this pedestal. And obviously, we're all striving for that.
Sure.
I mean, everybody wants to be on the big stage, opening
me.
up for the big bands, making the big tours.
Lone wolf.
That's
right.
Lone wolf.
Smart, actually.
But I mean, obviously, if it happens, that's great. But otherwise, if it doesn't, you're still striving for it.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's the creative process of it. It's that let's create something that no one's heard before. And let's show the world who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, but I think the most important part of that is like, I mean, obviously all the big dream stuff is really cool, but like you better love this shit, especially metal.
Yeah.
It's like even the bands that attain some level of success, like they're not living the way that you think they are when you're a young kid. And I know a lot of dudes who are in pretty big bands, and I know what they do when they get home. And
Right.
it's very different, and especially growing up in the 80s with MTV and all that stuff, like all those videos,
Glamorous.
and all that, that bourgeois lifestyle,
Right.
and this rock star thing.
It's not quite what
so
it's
much.
Yeah, but they did. I think they do that with all upcoming genres too, because they did
Of
it
course.
with rap
Oh, yeah.
too. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole rap thing was. I mean, people were wandering around with wads of cash.
The difference is
driving.
those fools make money.
Yeah.
Like-
The metal scene is. That's why it's like the.
It's rare.
Yeah, it's very rare.
It's hard
Yeah.
to actually make a living playing,
Yeah.
especially extreme metal.
Right.
But like metal in general, it's not a viable commodity in this day and age, especially.
Yeah.
Unless you're an established act.
Yeah.
And getting to that point just requires blood, sweat, tears, and
Yeah.
not giving up.
Yeah.
So I would venture to say that like do what your group of guys wants to do, what you guys need to do, create that, and then it's just putting in the time.
Yeah.
And if people don't like it, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But when they do, it's obviously way fucking cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah, even better. Yeah.
It still bugs me out when we play them, when people actually like us.
You're like.
Like it's really weird. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Because I'm really used to, especially this band. Like people always kind of have that look on their face.
Are you speaking of Way of the Tides? Or?
Yeah. We get.
I love it. I like
Thank
it
you.
a lot.
But there's a lot of shows where we play because we're heavy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but there's no screaming.
Right.
So, like the people who like really extreme stuff, there's no screaming. So
Right.
like no
Right.
clean singing, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
But it's really heavy. So, but it's almost too heavy for the guys who are like, I don't like all that screaming shit, but I like melody.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so we're in this weird little pocket of like,
Yep.
well, I don't fucking know what to tell you.
Right.
Like we're just
Yeah.
doing our thing, and luckily, there's obviously, I guess somebody likes it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's good because I think you bring in a lot more different. It's not just focusing on one group that likes certain things. So you're actually opening it up to a lot more different groups to actually come in and actually enjoy the music, and not just focusing on somebody who's like likes the heavy stuff and that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You actually broaden it by having that separation, which I think it's genius, really,
Yeah.
if you think about it.
Well, we didn't do it on purpose. So.
No. Well, that's always a good thing. Like when
Yeah.
you're like going in there, like sometimes you get in those bands, you're like, oh, this is shit, and then you talk to other people around there, like, I fucking love that, and you're like, you really?
Well, Mike and I actually had this conversation last night about bands who are able to enunciate when they do the screaming, right?
Yeah.
It's because there's always that stigma of like, oh, it sounds great, but I can't understand a word you're saying, right? And yeah, the genre, especially with extreme vocals, extreme metal, there is that like, I need it in front of me to really get what I'm hearing here, and maybe you can pick out some pieces if you're really attentively
Like
listening.
chorus lines,
right.
probably a little bit more.
But even then, there are some parts where you're like, and 36 Crazy Fists is one of those bands that for years it was like, if I didn't have the lyrics in front of me, I would have guessed something else. Like it doesn't sound like a word the way he says words.
Well, he's
And-
a little mush mouth.
yeah,
anyway.
it's a little
Yeah.
bit, right? And I get it. Like when you're playing and you're writing and you're trying to keep up. Like I've heard, vocalists who are trying to do their lyrics. And because the speed of the song, they're like, and you're like, I'm not going to catch that. You know what I mean? Like, and they really,
Thanks, drummers.
yeah, yeah, you got to keep that time, right? But, and it's hard to find that pocket where it's like, okay, do I have time? What the drummer's doing on my vocal pattern, so that way I can draw out the words and maybe But enunciation is something that just can go a long way.
Sure.
And I'm one of those vocalists that I've done nothing but screams, growls, and all those things for a long time. And I'm trying to enter into that world of melody. And I'm trying to expand my horizons because I think there's something to be said about melody.
Yeah.
Right? There's something that, people can sing along to, something that they just go, that fits so well with that part. And it brings the whole story that you're telling lyrically anyway to a point where you're like, this is the main focus.
Right.
Did you guys do that going into Weight of the Tides? Like, have that idea of, hey, we want to make this where it's not so, screaming and...
Well, no. I think
that way?
Well, I think after December ended, I did the Swamp Donkey, and I didn't scream at all. Like, I just stopped.
Right.
Like, and partly because I was kind of bored with it.
Right.
And I wasn't. I mean, it's a long story, but part of it was just like I just don't feel like that anymore. And the Swamp Donkey was just like stoner rock, basically, even though none of us smoked weed. But it was basically like if Crowbar covered the first 4 Kiss records, that's what the Swamp Donkey sounded like. So I sang, and I sang before December as well, so I knew how to do it, and I just kind of felt like it was like a palate cleanser, I guess. And then I forgot how to scream. Like, I can't do it
Can't do it
anymore at all.
anymore.
Really?
No, I can't. And that's cool because I don't want to.
Right.
So when we brought Jess in to form Weight of the Tide, which is, Swamp Donkey died, we just kind of was like, well, you get over here and we'll do this. He's got a really great voice.
Yeah.
And our voices actually work really well together.
Yep.
So it just made sense to be like, one of my favorite bands of all time is Kiss, and they have 2 singers, you know?
Yeah.
And my first band out of high school, we had 2 singers, and then now I have it again.
Yeah.
And that's not a fucking conscious decision, but it's like, it makes sense. Like,
And it works.
yeah, and
I
it's
like
nice because then neither of us really get too gassed.
Right, yeah.
Because it's like he does the verse, I do the chorus, there's some
Right.
harmonies, and then the next one I do the verse, he does the chorus. So we get breaks, and being a geezer, it's a lot easier on me to like be like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I can like breathe for at least 8 bars.
Yeah.
Right,
And
yeah.
I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I don't know why it happened, but I think it's cool, and I really enjoy it more than, I loved doing the screaming stuff, and I really pushed myself a lot to push that farther, especially at the time that December was doing it. I was paying attention to a lot more than Phil Anselmo and Chris Barnes. Like, I wanted to do things that singers were doing that were far more underground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I ripped all that shit off from like Kevin Sharp from Brutal Truth, basically. Thanks, Kevin. But I got reasonably good at it, and so I just rode that until I was like, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I'll do something else. That's what I mean. Like, I was just kind of following my heart.
Yeah.
My little metal heart
Yeah.
to show me where the next move was. And it seemed like, don't scream anymore. I'm not an angry guy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like,
No.
And it's funny because you were talking about enunciation, and there's a thing I started doing in December that I still do, Jess and I both do to this day, where like we don't write lyrics until like we have to record.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
So it's all kind of free flow,
well,
just
in
whatever
street
comes to
vocals,
mind.
I read an interview with John Tardy from Obituary, and he said, because Obituary didn't print lyrics, like I think Cause of Death which is I think one of the best death metal records ever. All of the lyrics for the album fit in a paragraph this big.
Yeah.
He didn't write any. He's not saying anything most of the time. He viewed his voice like another instrument in the band. And like, to be fair, who gives a fuck what you're saying?
Right.
Well,
Well,
that's also true.
And
yeah,
if you
Ryan does.
But
Well,
and I
it
love
depends. Yeah.
now understand I love lyrics. Like I
Yeah.
fucking love lyrics. But like in death metal, cool, you like killed a guy.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Satan's awesome.
Right,
Right,
yeah,
like,
right.
Awesome, great. Like I love it.
Yeah.
But like I don't give a shit.
Well, and
You
that-
know?
like you said, and that's something that I never really thought about. Like, why write words when you're just using your voice to create another instrument? I never really
Yeah,
thought
that's
about that.
interesting.
Because that is an interesting thought. Because
Yeah.
when you think about it, if you just take away the words, it is an instrument.
Well, most of the time you
is.
can't understand it anyway. That's what's
Yeah,
going
well,
back to it.
and it's
like
because it's no different than like Mongolian throat singing,
Right.
You know
Yep.
what I mean? Because it's a tone, it's a vibration that's giving you this sound that you're hearing along with the instruments.
Yeah.
And it can formulate into something that you listen to and you're like, whoa, like this is trippy, or this is really cool, or heavy, or whatever that feeling comes. And so I think the way I've always interpreted lyrics is this is my chance to be creative.
Yeah.
And I like writing about things that are off the wall, or maybe things that I'm like, oh, that's an interesting concept. Or I, take something from history and turn it into like a fictional story of that time. Like that's the way I like to write.
Sure.
And it's just fun.
I think what I found and still do actually is that with removing the idea that I have to be saying something, I can focus way more on what I'm doing, and it allows you to get, or allows me to at least get way more creative.
Yeah.
Because I'm not under this like constrictive
Don't forget
cadence.
that word, or
It doesn't matter, and eventually what happened and still does is we'll be scatting along, and you start using. You start injecting words into it because that vowel feels right for
Right.
that, or I like the percussion of that particular, so this word fits.
Right.
And then you start repeating those words because they fit.
Yeah.
So it's more like I write the vocal part to fit the song, and then I write the lyrics. Literally, will like sit and just figure out
what fits into that.
This sounds like that's what I'm saying. there.
Right, right.
Or like, oh, that kind of word. Yeah, that. And I don't know what the fuck I'm writing about. Like, none of this shit is like, oh, we have something to say.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's all just kind of like, I don't know, sad.
Right.
Right,
That's
yeah.
pretty much what we're
Yeah.
doing. Is like this weird, like, sort of bummed out but uplifted old dude talking about life kind of thing, and cool. Like it doesn't, but I don't think that. I think it's far more interesting to get the vocal part to be the best thing that it can be.
Yeah.
Because arguably it's one of the most important parts of the song.
Yeah.
Especially even in extreme metal, where like sometimes I like bands and I just really like the drummer.
Yeah.
I don't really give a fuck about anything else.
Right.
But like the vocals, there are death metal bands I like mostly because of the singer.
Yeah.
Because they do something interesting. 36 Crazy Fists is a really good example.
Danny
because
Filth.
Arguably, oh, fuck, don't get me started. Danny fucking Filth. Brock arguably doesn't have a good voice.
No.
But he has a really interesting voice, and his delivery and the way he does it is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Which is why I say it doesn't make any sense that I would like him, because he's
Right.
kind of a terrible singer.
Yeah.
But I like what he does with it.
How he puts it all together
Yeah.
and stuff.
So
It's the
like
way it comes together collectively.
exactly,
Yeah.
and he's very clever with the way he moves his voice through these riffs and things. So I think that is way cooler.
Yeah.
Because then there's something more to it. You know,
Right.
if you really look at your voice like an actual instrument, then you're not confined to what you're saying.
Right.
And I mean, shit, we just played a couple weeks ago with In Flames, and we played we have written lyrics for a couple of these songs because we're getting ready to record, but like neither of us remember them.
Right. So you guys are just going.
So we're just doing things, and we know that when this harmony comes up, it's just kind of this pattern and this vowel is where you hold.
right.
Like other than that, I have no fucking idea what Jess is saying half the time, and he doesn't know what
Wow.
I'm saying.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so cat's out of the bag.
Yeah. Well, this is great because it's also a new way, future vocalists who are thinking that you need to come up with a storyline before you start writing the song.
Yeah. You
or
really
anything.
don't.
You don't need to do that at all, really, until the end.
Yeah.
The very end.
Well, look at it like if you were a guitar player and you're going to write a solo,
Right.
you're not bound by anything except, I suppose, key,
Right. Yeah.
unless you're, Kerry King or something.
And
Yeah.
the rhythm.
And the rhythm. So that's it. But that's a real big sandbox to play in.
Right.
So why would you, as a vocalist,
Limit yourself.
which is arguably one of the most expressive instruments that we have as
Yeah.
humans, why would you limit yourself to words until you're ready to give it the words that it needs?
Yeah.
Like, fuck that. Just
Yeah.
play around. Like, make a mess, fuck shit up.
Right.
And eventually it'll start clicking and I really like the way I did that thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. Maybe not every time, but maybe I'll try to mix it up the third time instead
Yeah.
of doing it the same.
Yeah.
And like,
I mean, that's with every instrument, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I do that with drums.
exactly.
The drums is like, oh, yeah, that beat
The voice
sounds
is
great.
no different.
Right.
It's just an instrument.
That's yeah. I've never thought about it on that side of things, though. Like
well,
that.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, opening my eyes here.
But
I'm not going to become a vocalist. You guys are all right. You're safe.
noted. Thank God.
Fuck you.
No, but and it's funny because like I subconsciously do it. Like when I first started playing with Robert in our band, the first time I showed up, I obviously didn't know any lyrics. I didn't hear their music at all, and I literally went down to try out, which was them playing their songs that didn't have any vocals or lyrics to it.
I was like, yeah,
anyway.
we don't have.
And they were like, "We're just gonna play," and I'm like, "Okay, just start playing, and I'll jump in."
Yeah.
And there was only a few times where I felt it was right to say a word at all that was actually a word, and through the majority of it, it was just me making the sounds that I was feeling when I was hearing what they were playing anyway. And that's usually how I do the writing process, where I figure out how I want a vocal pattern to sound.
Yeah.
And then I throw the words to it. And then that's when I go bananas on the creativity side of, all right, well, what is the feeling that I was getting when I said that, and it was like, oh, now I can build from that, and but that is such an interesting concept to just lay it out like that and be like, no, that's all that it needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things where, like, if you're painting, it's limitless.
Right. It's not a
And-
paint by number thing. It's like,
Well,
here-
it can be, but
yeah.
but if you're just
I'm a beginner.
creating something, like, you decide when it is done.
Yeah.
Although I don't think any art is ever done; it's just abandoned. That's that
Right.
old quote.
Yeah, we tracked it. It's,
But like, you just kind of why limit yourself from the get? Like, why be like, you know what? I'm gonna paint a tree with a dog under it. Like, maybe you will, but maybe halfway through blocking that out, you'll be like, I don't know.
it's not gonna
Now I'm
work.
feeling like this
Yeah.
actually looks like something else.
yeah.
So wouldn't it be more fun to play with that and
Yeah.
see what happens? Because the worst case scenario, you just fucking gesso over the canvas again and it's gone. You
Right.
start over.
Yeah, yeah.
Vocals, drum parts, songwriting in general, it's the same. It's just, you're just expressive art. That's all this is. And so I think the beauty of metal and music in general, but metal in particular, is like, there really are no rules. So if suddenly you feel like taking it into another direction, try it out. If it doesn't feel good, don't fucking do it anymore.
Right.
But if it does, maybe see where that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can keep building.
So where's the point where you go, okay, this is good enough. Let's track this, because tracking, I feel, is like that's solidifying it. You're
That's when it's final.
Yeah.
So usually by the time, okay, so when we were doing that last December record, I was writing lyrics in the studio while the guys were doing the tracks. Like, while they were cutting the music, I was sitting there with
You
my,
don't feel that pressure on that, like
No, because nobody can understand what I'm saying anyway.
you're like, "Ah, fuck it.
Well,
dude."
and that's the beauty of it, right?
There's songs on
that would drive me nuts, though.
on the second December record, Praying, Hoping Nothing, when we were getting ready to do vocals with Tom, he always wants, most
Yeah.
guys want lyric sheets.
Yeah.
And there would be lyrics, and then I would literally just write improv. And he'd be like, what the fuck is that? I'd be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly. What
I know the part, but I haven't written any words down. And he was not, I don't think he was impressed. But then I did it, and he was like, well, I don't know what you did, but that was awesome.
right.
Yeah.
So, like, okay. And then I went backwards after the song was finished, and I wrote what it sounds like I'm saying. And that's a Def Leppard trick. It's true. But again, doesn't matter
Yeah.
because it's all just
Right,
and
right,
like
right.
cool. Like who gives a shit?
Yeah.
It's not like we had big sing-alongs.
Right. Yeah.
And we weren't even in 4/4 ever. So like you can't dance, you can't sing to it. Like, this is purposefully obtuse. So like good luck if you can get in. Come on. But like otherwise, we're just here to
Well, clearly it
punish
worked.
you.
Yeah.
It did work. Yeah, for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Jeez.
Well, and an interesting story because I don't know, are you familiar with Rick Rubin?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And did you hear the story about the System of a Down song Chop Suey?
Which story?
So the section of Chop Suey where it's the breakdown part towards the end, where it's Father, Father, that part, when they were recording it with Rick, Serge was like, I don't have anything written for this part lyrically, and I don't know really what to put, and I'm kind of stuck. And Rick Rubin was like, well, and it was in his studio, and he had a library, and he's like, go over to the bookshelf and grab a book and open up to a random page and just pick a paragraph and read the first paragraph.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. Father, 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 to your hands, who I commend my spirit.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was all just out of a book, just randomly.
Awesome.
And it's like, and that's such a high point in that song.
Yeah.
That's like that point where you're like, oh, yeah,
Yeah, but that's like winning the lottery. That shit's not
and
gonna
that-
happen all the
you know,
time.
and that could come from anything, and it didn't have to be relevant.
No,
to
he got
anything else
lucky.
they were
I think he
saying.
got lucky.
That's
off of that,
serendipity for sure.
Seriously.
But arguably, you could do that with anything, and then you find the part, and then you can just write words that actually
the
fit your
part.
part.
Yeah.
He got lucky because he found cool words.
Yeah.
Right.
Good for him.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, awesome.
Well, I wanted to go back to the December thing and
Sure.
that whole section because we were talking earlier and you were saying you tracked with multiple people. So Tom was one of them, but you
Yeah.
also tracked with
Devin Townsend.
Devin Townsend.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just literally talking about it.
Yeah, we did the first two records here in Reno with Tom, who was awesome.
Yeah.
And then forward quite a bit, we got signed to a real record label, Earache Records, and we got to work with Devin Townsend. So we went to Vancouver for not quite a month and made a record with him in Vancouver, BC.
Yeah.
And that's the Lament configuration. Is what that's. Yeah, that was crazy because as we were talking about, like I have been and remain a real big fan of that guy. I've been a fan of his since like 1990, 91, whatever. And to get to like actually make a record and like hang out and talk with him and like
Pick his brain.
well, that's a weird that's a weird place.
That's what we were getting to.
But no, like he let me play his guitar and like he and I like I remember we were all sitting in the room eating lunch and his guitar was there and we were talking about his tuning and it's like, can I check it out? Because he uses an open tuning. He always has. And so I started playing it and then I can play guitar. So I started doing stuff and he's like, oh shit, what was that? And I was like, oh, I just did this. And he's like, see, I knew there was one of you in this band that could fucking shred. Let me see that thing. And I mean, Julian's a great guitar player, but I was the one who was like goofing around. And then he and I handed guitar back and forth for a little bit and went to the strip club with him, which was weird.
Gotta have a little.
Got
I
to,
can just imagine this, dude.
but
I'm like
it
picturing this.
was really crazy because like we recorded the record in the same place that Queensryche did. I think it was Rage for Order, which is one of my favorite records of all time. And then we did all the music there, and then he basically kicked all the other guys out when we did my vocals. He was like, it's just you and me. Like the rest of you guys go have fun.
Yeah. Well, he wanted to work on that specifically, didn't he?
Well, that's what he said.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna guess this is not how it went.
no, we went to one studio one night and he hated the room.
Yeah.
So we left. We tracked like one song and he was like, I hate the way this room sounds with your voice. We're leaving.
Really?
So we left and then we went to a buddy of his had a studio in like a tough shed in the backyard of his house.
Yeah.
And it was nice.
Yeah.
But it was smaller than this room.
Yeah.
It was about as big as this
section,
room.
yeah.
And with the control room and the
Wow.
So he put me in there and I was told at the beginning that we're going to have plenty of time to like really dig into the vocals and like really work at it. And I did all those songs I did 10 songs in 12 hours.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. And almost every song except for one is first or second take. And then one of them there's a part and it's wrong on the record right now. I had a timing issue with one thing I could not get. So I did like 16 takes and I couldn't land it. Really? So he finally was like, show me what you're supposed to do. And he hits play and I'm like, okay, and then you're there.
Yeah.
Because it's like a weird jumpy thing. And he's like, well, then just fucking do that. I was like, right.
Yeah.
And then I fucked it up 3 more times. I'd come in late or early. And finally he was like, you get 3 more takes and then we're keeping the best one.
So is this full takes, or they're not punching you in?
Full
there?
takes.
Oh, so they're not punching you in.
No, I would go straight through the song.
Really?
And then there's a couple. He had me like do a whisper track under one thing and a couple little double things.
Right,
But
just some overlays.
other than that, it's like one performance.
Wow.
Straight through.
Wow, that's a trip. Was this on tape or was this?
It was all digital.
Digital.
Yeah, Tom's stuff was all on. Well, I think no. The first album's on tape. The second album was all digital. Maybe not the drums. I think we might have done those on tape and dumped them.
With Tom? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tom loves messing with some weird stuff.
Well, I mean, it makes sense when you're tape, especially for drums. It's just warmer and richer and bigger. But then, and we did that on the first Wait EP that we did. Tim Narducci, we went down to his studio and we recorded a 2-inch tape.
Yeah.
And then he dumped it down into digital for us, and we did the rest over it.
Yeah.
I don't know that when you dump it down, you really get most of the benefit out of it, but it's cool to be like, well, there's no edits.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But yeah, Dev was, he was awesome, especially since I don't think he really liked us very much.
Yeah.
Musically, at least. He was
Wasn't his take.
Well, his wife did, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he worked with us, you know, and we ran into him several times after that, and he was always super cool. He's a sweetheart of a guy.
Yeah.
Like, and just like a bona fide musical genius.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to be able to just kind of hang out for a while. And this is well before he was, I mean, Strapping wasn't, they were barely active at the time. Like they hadn't put out a record for a couple of years and they were writing. When we came through on tour later, we actually got to go to Strapping Young Lad practice.
Oh, yeah.
So we were like in a garage basically, and there's fucking Gene Hoglan and Devin,
crazy.
and they're like playing this new album that hasn't been recorded yet.
Yeah.
It was like, what the fuck?
That's the coolest shit.
Should I be here right now?
Yeah, it was amazing. But Dev was like, yeah, come out. We're gonna practice. You guys should come down. I was like, okay.
So what was it like those earlier years in December? I mean,
well, I guess it was weird because we come from a metal background, you know, and but right in the early part of doing the December thing, I discovered hardcore, and I'd known about like Cro-Mags and I loved all that like New York hardcore stuff, but I got introduced, like the Victory Records thing was happening. So
that was huge.
You start hearing Snapcase and Strife and all this, you know, mostly straight edge stuff, but not all of it. And I knew some of the dudes from Unconquered, and they gave us a lot of our first shows actually where we were playing with Unconquered. And that was great. Like, and that scene seemed to like what we were doing, because it was that first December record is like just fucking crowbar worship, basically. And then we started getting a little bit where people would think we were whatever.
Yeah.
They were okay with us being on shows, even though none of us were straight edge, and it was never a problem, which was really nice.
Yeah.
It was about the music at the time.
It was at that time. It got a little wonky.
yeah,
for
it
a
got
while
weird.
there.
Definitely later.
Well, and we were kind of in the middle of a lot of that, because we shared a rehearsal space with Fall Silent for years,
Yeah.
and we played a fucking million shows with them, but there was beef between Fall Silent and the straight edge crowd for reasons that are too dumb to get into. And we were kind of caught in the middle of it sometimes, but it was like, dude, I don't care. I just want to fucking play.
Kind of guilty by association.
Yeah, but it was
That's
like,
happening even nowadays. It's
I'm
still
sure.
happening.
I mean, stupidity doesn't go away, does it?
Yeah, no, it actually intensifies.
Yeah, but like
we got social media now.
Oh shit. Huh?
Yeah, we sure fucking do. I'm so glad I did not.
Oh man, you guys were lucky.
Yeah, brother. I have plenty of embarrassing stuff that will never see the light of day.
Yeah.
It's great. But as we kind of evolved, that's the straight edge scene didn't really understand, because we were like shifted from being like just heavy, kind of sludgy, to like, oh, we like Napalm Death and Brutal Truth and like Dillinger and
Right.
Bloodlet and all this like weird progressive stuff that's happening. So, and Jason can play all that shit. Like he could play whatever you throw at him. So all of a sudden we're doing grind beats, and like I'm doing the low, high, screamy thing, and everybody's like, what in the fuck is going on? And it was like, yeah, this is what we should be doing.
Let's
go.
This is the lane.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, fuck, dude, like we played all the time, whether with False Island or not, and lots of other local bands, and we played a bunch of shows with Eric and Existence and those guys,
Yeah.
and Free K Ride there near the end,
Yeah.
and like there was just a lot twice. There was just so many bands, and the scene was really strong.
Yeah, it was.
But like we would flyer the shit out of this city, and I booked a lot of shows too. So I would book like Vision of Disorder at Del Mar, and we'd make like 500 flyers and pass them out, and we'd get like 400 kids. Or the gig we played the night before we started recording the second December record, we had over 500 kids paid at Del Mar, and we were headlining. And it was like, oh, so something's happening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, this is working.
Yeah, because what's cap on that? It's not even.
I think it was maybe 7.
Yeah, I was like,
So
you
it
got to
was-
been getting close.
It was packed.
Yeah.
And it was great. And we made pretty good money, and that helped because it all went to Tom.
Yeah.
And, but I paid all the bands,
Yeah.
you know, and it was cool. The scene was really, really strong at that point.
Yeah.
I started having friends come up from LA, and they would play with us here. And one of them was a guy who worked at Metal Blade, so that was pretty cool. Almost,
Ooh, so close.
Oh man.
didn't work out.
No.
But he did get us. We ended up signing a record deal. Well, so we recorded the second record, and this dude who used to live in Reno, who had moved to Florida, who was just like some kid from the scene. I think he had some money. But he tracked my number down and called me, and he was like, hey, what's the band doing? And I'm like, well, we're just finishing recording this album. We're trying to figure out what happens. He's like, well, I'm going to start a label. Can I put your album out? And I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Right.
You know, he's like, I'll do a limited run of 1,000 CDs, and I'll send you guys half of them, and then whatever we make, we make. And I was like, fucking done.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So he presses the first thing. My guy at Metal Blade actually gets it pressed through their people, so it was pretty cheap.
Nice.
Not that it mattered because it wasn't my money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But then he hooked us up with this dude who was a porn director named Matt Zane, who was starting a record label, and he wanted to sign us. So we were like, sick. Like that sounds he had shitload. He had porn money.
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah.
So we were like,
Buku bucks.
yeah.
dude.
Well, it's a growth industry.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There were soggy monies.
Yeah, we never touched them.
Used gloves.
So this guy signed us, and he re-released that album like 6 months after the other dude put it out. It's real cool of us. We recorded 3 new songs and put them on that version. Had new cover art and everything done.
Right.
Put it out. Did a bunch of press. Got some good reviews. We did some touring on the West Coast. We toured with did a tour with Crowbar, which was awesome.
Wow.
Because I met Kirk when they played the Tumbleweed over on 4th, which is now Shoeman's Custom
yeah.
Cycles.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So that was a club, and my band before December played a bunch there. We played with like Trouble and White Zombie and like all
Oh
these-
shit.
But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
I'd met Kirk at that show because there was like fucking 40 people there. You know, nobody knew who Crowbar was on their first record, especially. And it was weird because this is like death metal and thrash time, and they're like sludgy as fuck.
Yeah.
And I was all for it.
Right.
We didn't play that show, but I hung out with him a bunch, and I'd run into him at Foundations Forum, and we'd shoot the shit, and he'd go, "Oh, Mark from Reno," you know. So we did I don't know, 5 shows with them, mostly like Arizona, California, Southern California kind of thing. We did a tour with, it was Hate Plow, Skin Lab, and SOD, Stormtroopers of Death.
Yeah.
So Scotty and Charlie Benante.
Yeah.
That was fucking awesome. It was really cool. And we were friends from Skin Lab because Skin Lab used to play here all the time.
We've opened up for him a couple times.
We always were playing with Skin Lab, and I'd usually go up and sing with him. And Steve's a great dude. And still consider him a friend. I haven't talked to him for quite a while, but we ended up playing this festival called November to Dismember, and it was like one of those. I think it was a 2 or 3 day thing in San Bernardino at the fairgrounds, and they had multiple stages. And I mean, big bands were playing, like really cool. I saw Nile and fucking Dark Funeral and just a shitload of cool bands.
Yeah.
All day, all night. Matt, the porn guy, had got us on that. And his dad cut him off from getting any jobs in their normal industry because he thought he was wasting his time with all this music shit.
Yeah.
So the label had no money, and we were just like, we might as well have been a local band who some kid from Florida put our record out, except we got some shows out of it.
Yeah.
Matt was really cool. His band, which he gave up their set. They had a really good set time. They were playing like Saturday night at like 9 o'clock. Ooh. And we were supposed to play at like 11:30 a.m. Sunday morning.
Oh, wow.
Which, you know.
Yeah.
Prime time.
Right, yeah. The sun feels really great on my face.
But he gave us his band's spot. Like, he dropped his band off the show with the condition that we got his spot. So we went on, I forget who it was before, but like a band that is nothing like us, and the crowd hated us.
Yeah.
Like, they were not having it.
Yeah.
They were all short hair and, you know,
Right,
I wear
right.
fucking glasses. So.
Nickelback.
Well, it was more like, I remember Gary from Propane always called me the Drew Carey of extreme metal. Because I was all chubby and I had the big, horn rim glass, and I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, real original, buddy.
Whatever, dude. I'll take it. But anyway, so Century Media, I had a friend who worked there, and they came and watched us, and he liked it, but they had just signed a couple bands, and they weren't looking to sign another.
Right.
They signed Shadows Fall and God Forbid.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
And the God Forbid guys were there, and I became pretty good friends with Dallas, actually.
Wow.
So they passed, even though their A&R guy gave me some good advice. And but Earache saw us, and they were like, okay. And Matt, out of the kindness of his heart, just like with our contract, and let us sign with them.
Wow.
So that's how we got to that level. And then, Devin Townsend, we made a video that was on MTV and Headbangers Ball and all that. We toured America. We did a tour with Pissing Razors. And then we did a Canadian tour where it was us and this band called Agiel, who were on Unique Leader.
Okay.
Like weird tech death stuff, really good players. And Cephalic Carnage. And then we did the U.S. with us, Cephalic Carnage, Creator, Destruction. And then we did another U.S. with us and Cephalic Carnage and Crematorium.
Wow.
And next to the last show we played, I think as December was, we played by invite. We played with Danzig on Halloween in L.A.
Wow.
Yeah, it was Assassino, which is Dino from Fear Factory.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fireball Ministry, who were like a fucking great like stoner rock band, and then Danzig, and that crowd really hated us.
Really?
Oh yeah. Holy shit. Yeah, we had a half hour, and like we came out and did our thing, and we've been on the road for 3 months, so we were like a fucking machine.
Yeah.
Like no set lists on stage.
Right, you're
Everything's
just
here, and it's
going.
just
All
da,
good,
da, da,
yeah.
da,
Yeah.
da.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the whole front row.
Wow.
Those are the funnest shows,
But
dude.
like,
I seriously do like that.
in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, but I'm here because Glenn
personally
asked
right.
me to be here.
Yeah.
So I was
so
just
fuck
blowing people
you.
kisses.
Right, yeah. Go fuck
Like
yourself.
literally just be like, you know.
That's
And I
great.
did get to meet Glen Danzig after the show, and he was very nice to me, although I saw him be very not nice to other people.
Yeah.
Switch.
Yeah.
Well, it was a weird thing, yeah. But that was cool. And then we went to Europe or England, and we did a full English run with, it was us, Stampin' Ground, which were like a really cool English hardcore band, kind of metalcore-ish, but really cool, and The Haunted.
Oh, wow.
Shit.
So we were out with them for like 3 weeks, and then we stayed there and did another 2 weeks in England with us, Corporation 187, and the Berserker, and then we did Europe with them as well. And then we got home, and I quit.
All right. That's it.
A couple months later, I quit.
What was so? Did you have that feeling before, like while you were on tour, like this is
Not until we got to Europe. The bass player who's on the Lament configuration, Asa, who's a great bass player, really good dude, who was never really into metal, but we made him do it.
Yeah.
He had quit before we did the Creator run, but we hired him to do it because we couldn't get a fill in.
Right.
Like, it's just there wasn't a big pool of fucking dudes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So when we got the Haunted offer when we were almost home, like I think we were. It was the day after Danzig. We played Chain Reaction in Anaheim the next night, and I think we were on our way to that show. And I got a phone call from Earache, and they were like, "Do you guys have passports?" And I was like, "I mean, I can." And
All
I'm
right.
like, good, because you're playing with the Haunted in February. And I was like,
Oh, my
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Damn it. Yeah.
so I get back in the van, and I was like, so yeah, that was the label. And they're like, oh, what they want? And I was like, well, I mean, I don't know, man. I guess
How do I say this?
I guess we have to go to England in February and play like 18 shows with the Haunted. And but you could see Asa just be like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
And hey man,
Right.
Get it. Yeah.
like I alluded to earlier, that rock star life ain't what you fucking think it is,
Nope.
man.
Yeah.
Ruling.
And we had done 3 months in a van,
Yeah.
like 5 dudes, because my best friend Jay was out with us to help drive and kind of tour manage. And like, man, we're just sick of the fucking sight of each other,
Yeah.
and like tempers get weird, and
Yeah.
you just everybody's little isms start becoming really fucking big isms. and
Yeah.
I just wanted to fuck all of you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're cool, but everybody else.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, Asa didn't want to do it. We found a kid, not you.
Yeah. No. I can say the fuck you,
Yeah.
Mike. Yeah. No.
Smart.
Turn it up. Get this in your ear holes.
But we hired a kid who I think had maybe just turned 21, and he played like 2 shows in his life, like at the Zephyr.
Yeah.
You
just-
know,
The Z.
really good player.
my first show, yeah.
Zach Kajakis is his name. He's a fucking great bass player and really, really sweet dude. But he was not ready for the world
For
we were
that,
dragging
no.
him into. Our first show with him was the night before we left for Europe, and we opened for. It was us, Sworn Enemy, 18 Visions, and Kitty at the new Oasis.
I was at that show.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a fucking opener for that kid.
Yeah, and it was his first show. Like, he'd never played a stage bigger than this fucking table. He didn't know how to sound check. Like, literally had no idea how to sound check. And then his second show with us is in England,
Right.
and we were late, so we actually went on second because we were sharing a bus with all those bands, but Stampin' Ground was English, so they met us in Sheffield.
Yeah.
They played first. We showed up, like literally rolled our gear in and played.
Right.
And the next night was at this place in London called the Mean Fiddler, which I think cap was 1,500 or something, sold out,
Wow.
like crushed everything. And we were like, burning through merch like crazy, just making hand over fist
Holy
cash.
shit! Yeah.
It was the best fucking tour ever
Yeah.
until we got to Europe, and then it was like, no,
No.
Really?
not having it.
Really.
Yeah, the European audience is
I always thought about this too, like the whole European side of things.
yeah, I always thought like Germany is like the home of metal, right?
Right, yeah.
No, they're the home of fucking power metal
Yeah,
and
yeah.
German thrash.
Yep.
But if you're this weird,
And
like
unts,
off-timey,
unts.
chaotic tech thing,
Yeah.
no, they don't. They couldn't give two flying fucks about us. And
Wow.
They want a very drivey,
They want
powerful
metal.
Boom.
Yeah.
They want,
and we were not that.
Oh wow.
I had a guy in Tilburg, Netherlands, who like kind of yelled at me after the show, because if you saw us, you know my stage banter was like very insulting.
Yeah.
Like, that was my thing. I would just berate everybody, just like talk massive amounts of shit, and that was my thing. I would just, God help you if you have your arms crossed, you know. Because like, are we boring you? Like, I was never one of those guys, and barely still like one of those
Roastmaster
like,
Mark.
let's go, come on, let's get it. Like, no, fuck that. You will or you won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I'm gonna let you know I see you,
Yeah.
and I will talk massive amounts of shit from the stage.
Fucking
and I have a microphone.
Nice yellow shirt.
So yeah, like, and I mean, Jesus Christ, I would just fucking like crucify people. So that crowd didn't like us.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Right.
But I was doing my shtick.
Yeah.
And it was like, this guy afterwards, he comes up, he's like, I really like your band. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Right.
And he's like, I don't know how things are in America. And this is the wrong one.
When they start out with that, it's
That was the
usually
wrong accent anyway. A German accent.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was like, in this country, we don't like the bands to like, you should build us up.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, it's kind of not my shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, it would help a lot if you would,
I'm trying to help you.
like, come on, everybody, let's go, get with us. And I'm like, nah, it's just not my thing, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. He was right
yeah.
Yeah.
in hindsight.
Yeah. But
So
I
that's
mean,
the
when
only
you
thing
run
you
it, when that's your thing, though, you run with that shit.
Well, I wasn't going to
I mean,
back
some people
down.
are there. I'd been there for that. You
Plus,
know,
I was
let's go.
furious. We're playing rooms that are like 500 to 1,000 cap, and we're getting like 30 to 50 people a night.
Right. Yeah.
Like the whole tour is tanking.
Yeah.
Because none of the bands that were on that tour had ever played that territory.
Oh wow. So
the
everybody's
label
freshies.
had this really cool idea of taking their 3 hot new bands
Yeah.
and just like
Pushing them in.
throwing them out the
Yeah. hey,
airplane.
yeah.
And they did it years ago.
Tuck and roll.
The Grind Crusher tour, which is like legendary, where it's like Napalm Cathedral and Godflesh or something. And it's like,
Jesus.
yeah, of course that did okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda
They're like, we don't know what happened.
Yeah, like these
Yeah,
bands,
you do.
None of us mattered at all.
No.
And so we're playing to a room full of people that are like just golf clapping. And like just tons of impress me bros.
yeah.
And like
Yeah. Whatever.
and that's every night.
Wow.
And then the fucking people start getting on each other's nerves, and we're living in it's one bus for all 3 bands, so it's like 16 dudes living in a shanty town on wheels. The pisser literally overflowed with piss at
Oh
one
my
point.
God.
Like the
Christ.
urine was all the way to the top of the lid, and we're yelling at the bus driver to be like, could you at least dump the fucking piss?
Yeah.
Which he did in a parking lot one night.
He's pulling a Christmas
Hey,
story.
gotta-
Shitter's full.
Dude,
Yeah.
but like,
Cheerful.
I mean, like, we're at a gas station, and he is like, stay here. He rolls all the way over to the other side of the parking lot, and you just see this flood. And then he drives back over, and he's like, everybody on. We're just like, that's not legal.
Yeah.
Like,
Nope.
you can't just do that.
Sorry, we're not
We're
from
good.
here.
Let's go.
Yeah, I had nothing to do with it. I was asleep in my bunk, man. I didn't see shit.
I was getting Funyuns. I don't know what happened here.
I have no Funyuns over there. But yeah, so that was December. Like, we got home and we started writing, and I think Asa kind of dabbled in coming back to play with us again. But by then I was just like, I just don't want to, I don't feel like this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's just too much work. And like, I wrote a lot of the stuff, not all of it, but I wrote a lot of stuff, and I just didn't have it.
Yeah.
I think I wrote 2 songs, and I guess they might have been good. I don't fucking remember.
Yeah.
I cannibalized one of the ideas later, but I don't know.
But that experience in Europe, it says a lot about bands who are able to not only be popular here, but to be popular over there.
Yep.
It's like they found that pocket where it's like, not only are we successful here and people dig what we're doing, but over there where it's a very meticulous taste. And I think a lot of times here, we just worry about the local areas. We worry about the locality of, the U.S.
Yeah.
We worry about what the U.S. likes. And then when you get outside of that, it's such a different mindset because I was just in Greece recently, and they had, there was this bar right down the street from where we were staying, and it was called the Ragnarok Bar, right? And they were playing all this classic rock.
Right.
I mean, it was Led Zeppelin, it was, Ozzy, it was, all those bands. And it was like, oh, like, do you guys like metal here? And they're like the AC/DC? And I'm like,
No.
Robert would hate this
Boom,
fucking
pound the
place.
shit out of that thing.
But that's the thing is it's like they like melodic, they like old school because like the new stuff is just like and at least I can say for that group, right? For the Greeks, they're kind of like
They don't get it.
They
Don't fucking get it.
it's something that's not instilled in them. Like there's a lot of the like modern pop that's playing.
Sure.
Like they gravitated towards that. You could hear that in a lot of stores and restaurants you were in, but metal was just not a thing over there.
Yeah,
There was a few stores here and there, kind of like Hot Topics.
Didn't you play it? Didn't you give him our song? Oh no,
No.
Chuck did in
Chuck
Mexico.
Chuck did.
Yeah.
No, but being over there was a few like Hot Topic-esque stores, right, where you could get band shirts and they sold jewelry and
Right,
things
right,
like
right.
that, right? But it was like Rob Zombie. Here's White Snake, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then it was AC/DC, Testament, and I'm like, that's probably the hardest band in this room right now.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
I
I don't think of Greece as a real hotbed for metal, although Rotting Christ are from Greece, and they fucking rule.
They're fucking extreme.
Yeah, it's
They're
so good.
badass.
I love them.
I've never heard him.
They're
good.
good. Well, I mean, if you like black metal,
Oh, yeah.
they're a lot of chanting.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
it's-
A lot of organ.
Yeah, it's cool,
Oh, really?
man.
Yeah.
They're
I'm gonna have to check him out.
it's awesome. I'll give you an album to listen to.
All right.
But I agree. I think that metal, at least like England, is different. And like with Weight of the Tide, we were fortunate enough to where we went over to England in 2018, and we did a couple club shows, and they were pretty good. But we played Bloodstock, which is
That's big.
and we were on the second stage, but we still got a few thousand people, and like nobody knew who the fuck we were, but like they were down.
They're feeling it.
But I think that
And
the culture
They were just open, to,
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
and we are at a festival, so they're like, "Well, we're here."
Well,
Right,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
And like maybe you don't like, I forget who was on the other stage.
Avril
but-
Lavigne.
No, there was some weird band on that we like. They time their stages really well. There's like maybe a
They have the festival
8-minute
down,
overlap, like on main stage to second stage.
Yeah.
Like it's always bouncing. But like, yeah, it was weird. Like people were into it, and I was nervous as fuck.
Dude. Right.
I
yeah.
think with the UK and the US are so very similar in our the way that the culture is, the way that it's they have their things, we have ours.
like an open
But the
mindset.
way that it's kind of like an open ground for change and for nuances and things like that. I think that's where we have that similarity or that crossover. But then like Germany
Yeah.
is very like, we know what we like.
Yep.
And
Scorpions.
we'll let you know,
I
and
do love the
yes,
I love the Scorpions.
though they're a
dude.
national fucking treasure.
Well, they're fucking
and
great, dude.
and I will co-sign that.
Yeah, like they're great.
I do think that America's worse, though. I think that Americans in general are
Picky.
well, they're entitled and they're jaded,
Yes.
and they aren't as adventurous.
Right.
And I see it all the time
Yeah.
because like I have always been like this. I think it's from the record store days and all that, but like I'm always looking for new bands. I'm always looking for something that sounds different.
Yeah.
I generally am that snobby fucking asshole who doesn't like your favorite band.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'd
Yeah.
almost guarantee it.
No, yeah.
And even if it's only on fucking principle.
Jared's like that too.
Like, I'm just like, no, I hate that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a really long list of bands that I'm just like, nope.
Yeah.
But I'm listening to like tons of bands that like, who the fuck is that? Like, I don't know. I just found them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I see a lot of people, even in the metal scene, where like I'll hear a new band and it's like, okay, so you guys just really like Lamb of God.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sick.
Right.
We've been
Like,
told that.
How original.
But it's like that's cool. Like I'm trying not to come from a judgmental place, even though I'm totally judging.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I like it more when it's like,
Exhibit
that's,
A,
that's
ladies and
interesting. You know, I like when, because any band should have. I can't imagine being in a room where all the people in that room only listen to the same bands.
Right.
Oh yeah.
That's not even an interesting
No,
conversation.
no.
It might be a good time though.
Yeah, you'll have a good time, but it's not going to come out with any creative.
Exactly. So I like it when I hear things that people are like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, why would you put cool? Even if I don't like it, I'm more like, see you.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't have to just do what people are doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Or what's been done for that matter. And you don't also have to reinvent the fucking wheel.
Yeah.
Fucking Scorpions are awesome.
Yeah.
They've been Scorpion in it since 70, what, 3 or something?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
And that Scorpion stuff,
Yeah.
the 70s shit is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Fuck you. The Uli Roth shit is unbelievable.
So good.
But when
So
you think
good.
about the time frame,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
metal at that time
Didn't exist.
didn't
No.
exist.
Yeah, not really.
Wasn't really a thing up until the 80s. That's really when it like created a pocket for itself.
Well, I think the new wave of British heavy metal
Yep.
was like the
Changed the
birth
world.
of. I mean, obviously Priest predates that a little bit, and
Yeah.
Sabbath
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah.
But metal, in its purest form, wasn't invented until '83, basically.
Easy.
Yeah.
You know, and I do think Sabbath is metal, but metal is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Right.
You know. And it's Priest and it's Maiden and it's, you know, fucking even Saxon, although Saxon sounds like a hard rock
Right.
band.
Yeah.
Close.
But they were in that group, you know, Diamond Head and
Diamond Head.
Tigers of Pantang and all that stuff that
Yeah.
Jeff Stewart knows exactly
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. But like, I think that now it's hard because there's so much opportunity for people to hear things. So many things fall by the waist. It's like you have that option paralysis thing where it's like I can listen to anything I want.
Yeah.
But what do I
I'm just gonna listen to that record that I like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it takes effort, and it takes effort to be like, okay, I'm gonna check this out.
Yeah.
I just did a thing with my buddy Eric on his podcast a while ago about gatekeeping in metal and how people aren't as open-minded as they like to think. Because metal, you know, my least favorite thing is when people say I listen to everything. It's like, I have a band that I can pull out of the back of my pocket right now that proves that no, you fucking don't.
Right. Right.
I have a list of them, you know. I have bands I don't even think are music. Like, I would contend that Portal is a fucking troll on the entire world.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean I don't like them for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I don't like them.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm afraid to say I don't like them because I don't get it.
I
Right. Yeah.
I had a guy at work tell me about Portal.
Dude.
And he was like, you should check him out, Todd. Yeah. And he's always telling me about bands that I've never
Portal's
heard of
fucked
before.
up, man.
And I remember going and I'm like, what am I listening to?
It's terrifying.
It's so terrifying.
I'm intrigued.
And visually, that's the beautiful thing about Portal is like the look
Yeah.
is really unnerving. And they predate Ghost, but it was similar at the beginning. Now what that singer's doing with the fucking veil and the tentacle fingers and the holy fuck.
Yeah.
But
It's the show is also, it's kind of, you go to see
It's
them
like a
for
show.
the show.
Yeah.
Like it's the visuals. It's kind of like watching
Alice
Guillermo
Cooper.
del Toro on stage.
they sound like Cthulhu Rising.
Yes.
And not that could be a band. I don't fucking know. But
was
they
like,
literally sound
I
like
think so. I've seen 'em.
if you've ever read H.P. Lovecraft and you see the Cthulhu language where
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just a shitload of consonants and
Right.
apostrophes.
Yeah.
Portal sounds like that.
Have you heard of Mike?
I'd say that's a pretty damn accurate.
We're gonna
They
venture.
they
into
do.
the
They
portal
sound
here.
like H.P. Lovecraft.
That's pretty
wrote-
accurate.
Created a band. Now, I want to like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to find.
I can't make it more than
can't
a
get it,
few
though,
songs
though.
at
It's
a
like,
time. Songs.
Right. Yeah.
But like I fucking watch videos and it's like, no, they're tight.
Yeah,
like,
it catches,
so this is on
yeah.
purpose, but I have no clue what anyone's doing.
No.
Ever.
They're
it's
on their own page.
and it's not
every one of them.
technical. It's just fucking windmill black metal sounding shit with like literally an old god speaking from below the sea on top of it.
Dude,
And
We're pulling this,
so,
we're
like,
pulling this
you
up
gotta
before I
see-
leave.
So anybody
Oh
who
my
listens to everything, fuck you. No, you don't
Yeah,
listen
yeah.
to that, and
No.
and then tell me, because I listen to a lot of things. I don't listen to everything,
Right.
But I listen to a lot, and that band perplexes me. But I always try every time a new Portal comes out. I'll be like, all right, let's see.
I'm gonna try this out
almost
here. Let's see how it goes.
It's like when you watch a Portal video, it's almost like you're dabbling in dark magic. You know what I mean?
for
It's,
sure.
It's like you're
We're conjuring the
I
dead
should
right now.
probably not be watching this, but
I'm going to.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it just for the sake of the fact that I have.
Yeah.
And be able to say, wow, I survived. You should see this now. Like, you got to see this.
It's the Ring.
I was just
You
gonna say,
basically
is it the ring and the?
It's like I'm gonna die in 7 days if you don't listen to this Portal record. But they're fun. It's fun, and if nothing else, I'll use it as like a weapon to goof on people.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely done that
Oh my god. This is
at the tattoo
never
shop.
thought about
Be
doing
like,
that, but
what do you
yeah.
want to listen to? You know, getting ready to tattoo somebody. And I don't, whatever you want. And I'll be like,
perfect. I like
here we
this.
go.
Like a fucking Twitter troll.
Yeah, I think that's what Portal is. They're the musical equivalent of a troll. But like, there's a lot of that in the world too, where, I mean, but everything's got a home.
Yeah. There's a spot for everything.
Yeah, like being that I worked in record stores for a long time, like I was absolutely like the biggest music snob on earth, and I've been working on it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm getting a lot more forgiving about like just let
People's
people
taste.
well, just let people
13-step
enjoy what.
process.
Like, I don't have to be right.
right.
I probably am, but I don't have to fucking be. Like, I've done my research, but in the grand scheme of things, like, I understand like why people wouldn't like what I like, and I don't have to understand why you like what you
Right,
like.
and
It
that's-
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of bands that are really huge that I think are fucking terrible, but like, God bless you if you like them.
Right.
At least you're listening to something, music that's made by actual human beings.
Right.
Right.
As opposed to just be pop.
Why does it make it terrible? Just because you don't like it?
Yeah, mostly.
Fair enough.
Well,
I mean, that's a real deep rabbit hole.
that-
Yeah, that is a rabbit hole because you could go for days on
Yeah,
that.
but you'd have to throw a band at me, and I can tell you exactly why.
Yeah.
Well, I'm bringing it up. It's the
Yeah.
name of God because
you got to think though, but
Already.
artistry in itself is subjective anyway.
It is.
You know, no matter what it is, whether it's music, it's a painting, it's a, it's a sculpture, of something like, is that a rock? Like,
right.
it's subjective, and so it's whether if you gravitate towards it, you share an interest in it.
Yeah.
And if whatever this band is doing is, and a lot of people like it, then okay, great. But that doesn't mean that you have to like it just because everybody else does. And I think that's where
you
a lot of
should.
people
That's-
do is they find these pockets of like, I'm not really sure what I like, but everyone likes this, so I think I'm gonna start listening to
There's
that.
a lot of
and I
that,
think
though.
that's the problem that I have with a lot of people, where it's like, look, if you don't like it, it's okay to not like something.
Totally.
And I remember in high school seeing people that I'm like, you're wearing a Slipknot shirt? I was like, bitch, you don't even know a fucking word from Slipknot.
But that's a different argument.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
they're going into
that's-
Kardashians wear like
It's
Cannibal
a-
Corpse
it's a-
shirts.
it
That's
becomes a
appropriation. That's
Yeah,
not,
it becomes a fad. It becomes a style. Like, I don't know what I want to do, so I'm going to go goth. But all I see is Slipknot shirts at Hot Topic, so I'm going to buy a Slipknot shirt. It's like, but have you listened to them? And they're like, well, my friends do. I'm like, okay. But does that mean that you like them?
Maybe,
and I
maybe
think
not.
that's the line, right? Is like, look, do you like it, or do you like it because your friends do? And it's like, everybody has to find their originality.
Yeah.
So, at some point, whether that's improv jazz, it's hip hop, it's metal,
Sure.
whatever it may be. And I think the hard part is there's a lot of people nowadays that just jump on this, like you see celebrities
bandwagon.
wearing these death metal bands. And
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
I think what people are missing about that is, one, the Kardashians, their stylists got
Right.
them that shirt. They're just wearing, and like, Also, hey man, if just for devil's advocate here,
Yeah.
let's say some person sees Kim Kardashian or whatever, whichever one it was, wearing a Slayer shirt.
Yeah.
Maybe they're actually going to look into Slayer.
Maybe.
And maybe Slayer gets another fan. The worst case scenario, they bought the shirt already. So like, it's kind of like in the 80s when they were burning fucking records because of the Satanic Panic.
Right,
It's like we already paid all those motherfuckers.
Yeah, you already
so
bought
like
it.
cool, burn the fucking
Yeah,
record.
burn it.
I
You
don't
can do
give a
whatever you
shit.
want with it.
Like awesome. All
Yeah.
you're doing is propelling that out into the universe and
Right,
letting
right.
more people see it. It's more
yeah.
eyes on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have bought merch from bands that whether I saw or I used to get merch from bands at the record store all the time, and like I'd wear the shirt and then I'd hear him be like, I don't really like it, but fuck, I need a shirt. It's
Yeah. Oh,
Wednesday.
right.
I haven't done laundry.
Right.
Like, yeah, maybe I saw that band, they kind of sucked, but I bought the shirt because I liked the design. I understand the like name me 3 songs from the band, or the,
Right.
but like that again, that's kind of gatekeeping and like
True.
And I
True.
would prefer to think that it doesn't matter as much. And also arguing like if you see some kid when you're in school wearing a Slipknot shirt, maybe they're just trying it on.
Right.
Maybe because you don't know who the fuck you are when you're in school.
True,
So like you said, maybe I want to be goth. I don't know, is Slipknot goth? I'll buy the Slipknot shirt.
Right.
But like they don't know, and they're probably going to end up listening to fucking I don't know,
Celine
pop
Dion.
country or some shit. Hick hop.
I was just about to say that.
And that's fine too.
Yeah.
I've taken my kid to when she was 10 years old, we took her to see Morbid Angel and Cannibal Corpse, not because she likes death metal, but because she thinks George is funny.
Really?
So we took her to see it, and she had a great time. She doesn't like that at all.
Yeah.
Like, she's into fucking Harry Styles and Kanye and T-Swift and, and like, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
Right, T.
Billie Eilish, I was okay with everything. Harry Styles, okay, but like she didn't know, and she was interested.
Yeah,
So I took
yeah.
her to that show. I took her to see Tesseract.
Oh, yeah.
We got to go
Warfield.
backstage and talk to them. That was
Yeah.
awesome. But like, she was open to the experience, and as a dad who likes this kind of music, I was really hoping, but no.
Yeah.
No, because she's my kid, she's going to be the exact opposite.
Right,
And that's
yeah,
her
yeah.
fucking job,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I should respect that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but the other side of it too is the idea of like, okay, why are you doing it? Like, are you doing it because you don't know, or are you trying to jump into something? Which I'm all for people trying to broaden their horizons. Like I've talked to these guys. Like I'll listen to '90s R&B.
Sure.
I love that shit.
Hell
I
yeah.
love it because I grew up on it.
Yeah.
And I heard it everywhere I went, and it was one of those like. My friends growing up was one of those like, oh yeah, chicks dig this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I could tell
That's
why,
why,
right?
yeah.
But even today, it's nostalgic to me.
Sure.
Even though I may not listen to it every day, but when I hear something and I'm like, oh god, yeah, that reminds me of that time.
Yeah, dude.
And it sticks with you. But I think the hard part is the idea of people doing it because they want to be accepted. Whether they,
But it's not your job to judge somebody on
it's
that.
like,
Yeah.
look, I'm into metal, and it's
Right.
like, are you? Like, it's
Does it
kind of
matter?
like a line in the sand where you're not sure if it's like they're confused or it's a lie. And I think that's the hard part because it doesn't matter what genre it is. I think it's the idea of people just wanting to be accepted. And I think that's such a driving force nowadays.
I
of
don't think
people-
it's ever changed, and I think it cuts both ways. I remember being in junior high, and I was a fucking metal kid, right?
Yeah.
But I had all my records, all my vinyl, and your friends would come over. But what they didn't know is if you get to the back, that's where my Duran Duran and my Tears for Fears and my
Yeah,
Cure
yeah.
and my Depeche Mode records are. I don't want my metal dudes to know that I actually,
yeah.
a lot of that stuff, and even tons of like, to this day I love yacht rock, and because I grew up on it, and it is nostalgic. But like, I think at some point you are trying to get in where you fit in, and when you're a young person, you have no idea
No
what that
clue,
means.
yeah.
So I do think you're just trying things out.
Yeah.
And of course you're going to go along with the crowd a little bit.
Yeah.
But I guarantee there's always that thing in your back pocket where it's like, no, I do listen to this too. I just
Yeah.
don't want you to know about it because I want to hang out with
That
you.
guilty
I want to be
pleasure,
accepted
so to
and cool.
speak, yeah.
Yeah, and I hate that term because I never felt guilty.
Right.
Like,
Sure, yeah.
I listen to ridiculous things
Yeah.
that people would be shocked, but I don't feel guilty about
No.
it. I'm not an apologist for liking what I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nor should you be for me hating what you like.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's age and wisdom.
Right. Yeah.
Because I wasn't always that good at
But
it.
you find a
Well,
lot
that's
of people,
going through your, your process here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
but
a
you
pretty-
find a
that's
lot of
great
people
thing.
nowadays, like, everybody has some shit talking. They talk about like Nickelback, right?
I think
the
it's
big
hilarious.
Joke.
Oh.
It's the big joke, but they still sell
Yeah.
record after
that's
record
that's
after
the
record.
point, isn't it?
And it's like people are still listening to them, but why haven't a lot of these people come out and be like, look, there's nothing wrong with Nickelback. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? It's like you're not seeing that. Like I listen to Nickelback.
I think
I like Nickelback. I always have.
I think Nickelback gets more heat than they deserve.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't listen to them, but I will tell you, as you said, they're selling out arenas still, right? So somebody's listening to this band.
A lot of people.
A lot of somebody
Yeah.
are listening to it. Not to mention Dimebag Darrell played on one of their records.
Yeah.
Jerry Cantrell professes that they're one of the best live bands he's ever seen and plays with them whenever he can. Now, I still don't listen to them. But if I just say, never made it as a wise man.
Yeah. Everybody knows.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So it's
a lyric or something?
fuck you. It's that song is you could land a whale with that hook, and everybody knows it. And it doesn't make it good, but it kind of makes it good.
Right. Right.
So like, and there's plenty of bands that are way shittier
Yeah.
who don't get that heat.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But like,
I like it.
and that goes back to the I'm trying this look on and the
Right,
cultural appropriation thing.
yeah.
But I mean, Nickelback, like, you don't have to like them.
No.
Because there's tens of thousands of people in most cities they play that do.
Yeah.
So like, they don't fucking need you.
No.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like whatever.
don't matter.
I just think it's so funny.
They're
It
not.
is
They're
funny.
not sweating it.
I
guarantee they're
Five
not
Finger
fucking
Death Punch
sweating it.
gets. They're like the next ones
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
And I would contend they might deserve it.
Yeah.
But it's like fuck that band.
Yeah.
And their fans.
Mike.
Oh no! Every time it came on yesterday, the whole way up, we're all nope at the same time.
Yeah, and I can honestly say the only songs I've ever heard from them are the covers.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
covers.
But that was more than enough for me to be like, nope, not into it. Yeah, I suppose they got like 5 or 6
Yeah, they
records
got a
out.
lot.
Like, well, yeah, it should be.
Most of the hits are, so it's like it's safe to assume sometimes.
But again, obviously, there's people because they play arenas.
they do.
So what the fuck do I know? Like, I'm over here listening to fucking Portal and talking shit. Like,
Yeah.
gives a fuck what I think. I do, I guess.
All right.
You mentioned something earlier, and I wanted to bring it up because you were talking about the idea of the scene here was really strong.
Yeah.
Where do you think it died off? Like, and do you have a theory as to why? Because I remember going to shows when I was younger, and going, man, and I think it has to do with a lot of the way that they go about doing shows now, where it's no longer all like it's rare to see an all ages show these days. Because even you were saying all these kids showed up. These
Straight
underage
edge
kids.
culture
Well,
did
it's
it.
because I was already 60 years old
Right,
when
right.
we were doing this.
Yeah. Right.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, I remember being a kid,
Yeah.
going to these shows at the New Oasis, at Stoney's,
Yeah.
at Jub Jubs, and
Yeah.
the Delmar Station, and all these other venues, and it was like, fuck, where did that
Where
go
did it
wrong?
go?
Okay, so I think it happened. I think it's multifaceted. I think I noticed it when we got home from that last December tour. We did play one last show and it was pretty good, but there was violence. We almost didn't get to play because there was violence before the show, before our set, and so I think that whole thing had really taken hold in a even stronger way than it was when we were involved inadvertently. I think that so people just like, I don't want to go to a show if I'm going to get beat up, right? Like, why?
Yeah.
But then there's dudes who are like, I'm going to go to a show to beat people up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like, okay, well, I don't want to. I haven't been in a fight since 5th grade, so I'm not going to that show because I might get beat up. There was the machete incident with Converge. That couldn't have helped, and they're never, ever, ever coming to Reno ever again.
No.
And fucking A.
For good reason.
But like, so not to put blame on that aspect of the scene, but I think that's a factor.
Did play a huge part in it, I think.
I think the other factor is there stopped being venues a little bit. Like, venues became a little more scarce. Also, people willing to promote a show, i.e. book it and put your skin in the game and be like, okay, I'm going to bring this band, but if it doesn't make the cut, I'm going to pay out of my pocket, because I did that a bunch and it's scary.
Yeah.
Luckily, I always broke even, but that meant I wouldn't pay anybody.
Right.
I'd be like, well, these bands are on tour, so you're not getting anything.
Yeah.
I'm me too, because I would play and I'd be like, I'm not paying me either.
Yeah.
But I think that scared some people off. I think that bands broke up. Like, the bands that were the driving force of that era, a lot of them stopped being a thing, or like slowly faded out. And without the younger kids picking that up and being successful at it for one reason or another, whether they just weren't very good or they didn't stick with it either, or it's too much work, or my dad says I can't practice Wednesday, or whatever the fucking answer is, all of a sudden there's no bands.
Yeah.
So why would there be shows?
Right.
And Reno arguably has always been a C or D market. So bands ain't coming through, and there's no scene here to support it anyway. So if you want to ask what happened to it, we let it die, and we stood back and watched it happen.
Yeah.
And then we complained about it because we're Americans.
Damn right. Well, a lot of us, like the younger, like me and Ryan, when we were coming up, like, it was dying, but there was nothing like we could have, like, it's not like we could have started our own venue and like started promoting the stuff. Like, we didn't know, but we just continued with the music. That was the whole thing.
And that's awesome, because, and Reno has always kind of had this ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Granted, the waves are getting, the crest isn't quite as high.
Right.
But like, that hasn't affected me at all, and I've been playing since '86.
Right.
Like, I don't care what the scene is doing.
Yeah.
And that might not sound like a very cool thing to say, but I don't.
Yeah.
I never have. If I did, December wouldn't have been as extreme and obtuse as it was, because people didn't like it at first.
Right.
If I had cared, I wouldn't have quit December to start a stoner rock band, because there were none.
Right.
And then I wouldn't have fucking stopped doing that and done what I'm doing now. I don't give a shit what people want or think. I just want to do what I want to do. And if you want to come along, I'm so happy about it.
Yeah.
But if you don't, and nobody comes to our shows, that's fine. I'm still going to do what I'm going to do.
Right.
And eventually, if you keep putting yourself out there and you're honest and you're genuine, your people will find you.
Yeah.
It just takes a long time.
Yeah.
And most bands don't have patience.
Nope.
Because they think you're going to be the next big
Instantly.
thing. And it's like, you're absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I got real good with the idea that success is an illusion after having some.
Yeah.
And it really, if your motivating force and drive for starting a band and playing heavy metal especially is, I'm going to be famous someday, go get a job.
Yeah.
Nope. It's not going to fucking happen.
Get a job
kid.
either way.
Get a job either way.
Get a job either
please.
way. Yeah.
The economy needs you. And but like, no, seriously, like, do not have those dreams and reach for the stars, but like, definitely be realistic about this.
Yeah.
Because knowing the dudes from God Forbid, when I knew them and they were blowing the fuck up, Doc and Dallas both lived at home with their mom and worked at Borders when they were home. Ben from Goat Whore, like, was a fucking cook at Applebee's for a while. And like, I mean, everybody I know has a day job. Bands becoming a self-sufficient like thing, probably not.
No.
And you're getting a 1/13 of a penny per spin on Spotify. Like, you ain't making money, kid.
Nope.
Like, get that out of your fucking head. Do this shit because you love it and you have something to say and you mean it.
Right.
Then I'll pay attention to you.
Yeah.
There you
Not that you need me,
Right.
because like I'm old and opinionated and I suck at things.
But it's to say that, yeah, I mean, we all need each other, really.
We do.
It's,
Well, and I do like the community that a scene can breed.
yeah.
But it's also a cliquey motherfucker, and it always has
Yeah.
been. Even when Reno's scene for us was at its height,
But there are those
there were
truths
other
in
scenes,
there, though.
Yeah.
you know, that like I remember like Dark Carnival was happening when we
Yeah.
were doing the December thing. We played one show together ever.
Yeah.
And those streams shouldn't cross.
Right.
I was super cool with everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
And I still think like I loved him, and,
Yeah.
you know, and Rick, and you know, but like, no, that was a bad mix.
Yeah.
We played outside Diamonds Casino with them in the afternoon.
Oh,
one
wow.
day, and like we just mortified people,
Yeah.
which was great.
Yeah.
Because that's what I wanted
Right,
to do.
yeah.
It's why I did the show. Was like, well, I don't really want to do this, not because they're not nice dudes,
Yeah.
but because it's a bad fit. But like, okay, yeah. Well, let's watch this. You know, hold my fucking beer.
Right.
Check this shit out. Y'all ain't never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
The hardest thing you've heard is Pantera.
Right.
Buckle up, sweetheart. Like, this is going to be far worse.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
That's great.
And it worked for us.
Yeah.
But I think it would be great to think that every band can get along and we can have this kumbaya moment.
Yeah. Not going to happen.
Probably
not everybody.
Probably not
not
everybody.
everybody.
But that doesn't mean like, I mean, I never met you dudes.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm stoked, you know, Dimitri and the whole thing. Like, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
That, like, that's why I wrote you guys a long time ago. I was like, I just think it's great what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not like blowing a bunch of vape up your ass.
Right. Good.
Glad you
There's
pointed out
enough.
the vape.
There's enough in here.
It's fine. I get it. I just didn't bring mine. Like, I think it's important that like you're trying, which is more than most people who sit back and complain will do.
Right.
Right.
And not that you're complaining. I've done
We
most
do all
of
the time.
complaints.
That's why we did it.
Well, but I mean, on air, that's been my job.
Right, yeah.
Happy to do it. But I think it's really cool, and I do think there's good bands around, and I
There is.
think that, you know, the venue thing's rough right now.
Yeah.
But to be honest, like at my age, all ages, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I don't think kids want to hear what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think
I think there's kids out there that do want to hear it, though.
I think there might be, although at that Inflame show, not that they were kids, but there's 21 and up, and there were a lot of people who,
Yeah.
one, didn't know we were local,
Right.
Yeah.
and
yeah.
then they'd be like, you guys are like the best local band ever. And
Yeah.
I'm like, probably not, but, and then, like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, really? You're from here?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like, we've been from here.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, it's been a
dude.
minute,
Yeah.
but like that's great.
Yeah.
That means that, and that crowd fucking loved us in
Yeah.
a really weird and uncomfortable way. I was like, I'm not used to that level of response.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's fucking great.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe there is a good scene coming.
There's something there. It's
But it's that outreach in that building, and like I stood there and talked to people all fucking night because I want you to remember.
yeah.
You know, this stupid name that I came up with. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know where I was going with all that. So that was good.
But
Yeah.
well said. I mean that's a great answer, and you know that's the beauty about like what you were saying is we're doing something that I think is underappreciated with the passion that we all have.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter where you come from. If you have a passion for music, whether it's metal, it's hip hop, it's country, it's whatever it may be. If you're trying to do something with it and you want to promote it, that's what we're all about.
Yeah.
We're all about tell us your story, because you know, we talk about how little of characters you have to say what you want to say in a bio. You know, and it's like that's not the whole story.
Yeah.
No.
And and every person in that group, especially in a band, has their story. And that's what we want to tell. And
I think it's great.
but you know, we want to thank you so
Yeah,
much
thank
for
you for
being on the
coming out.
show. This has
My
been
pleasure.
awesome.
No,
did you have anything that you'd like to plug? Anything you'd like to say?
Well, I guess plug, obviously, Weight of the Tide is the band. We're on Instagram and Facebook and Bandcamp and Lord knows what else.
Yeah.
We do have a video on YouTube that's really cool that Josh is in. So
Okay.
that was fun from the last album. We're getting ready to record soon, so after probably 5 years, it'll be out. I tattoo at Mark Studios, like you said, so thank you for that. And that's I'm on Instagram for that too. But no, like I think it's really cool. I really appreciate you dudes asking me to do this
Yeah,
because I do think it's a cool thing, and I'm just happy to be thought of enough to have been mentioned, let alone invited. So
Oh, you
it's
did.
fucking awesome, man.
No, you've got such a rich history.
Yeah, you
and,
do.
And in your, we love your opinion. We really do, dude.
well.
Trust me. And maybe you were holding back, but next
Yeah.
time you're on here,
yeah.
we're no strangers to having repeats. We'd
Yeah.
love to have
Oh,
you
no,
back
I'd be
on
happy
here.
to. Like, if you want to really
Absolutely.
unleash the fucking
beast.
the fury, you can start throwing band names at me. But like, I don't know. We could do that off air.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Speaking of band names, so we should. Do you want to do Mount Rushmore? You've probably seen this a couple times.
I think we should end this the right way. So, with every guest, we do a
You
Mount Rushmore.
motherfuckers.
So
Yeah.
top 4. Okay.
Right.
So, who are your top 4? in your Mount Rushmore?
Are there parameters? Like,
Not necessarily. So, I mean, we
we need to have like a rule.
I think the hard part is that some people do strictly bands.
Right.
Some do artists from those bands.
Right.
Or some do a mixture.
So,
I think I'd
I-
like to leave that up to you.
I would go farther even to be like, because there's genres. No, Portal's not even close. They're just a challenge. They're like the one chip
I'm gonna look
challenge.
them up
you guys
right
talked
after
about.
this.
That's what Portal is.
Which I've done.
I know you have. Like what genre and like when in my life, because that all changes.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, there's
Okay.
plenty of bands that I was huge fans of that like now I don't care if I ever hear again, like ever. And I was like a hardcore fan.
Wow.
Pantera. Just don't care anymore,
Really?
like at all. Don't think it aged well. Don't have any interest in it. But like whatever. I get it. I get it. I saw him 14 times, so.
Yeah.
I've had my moment.
But they won't now because I literally couldn't give a fuck if I ever hear another song by them again.
Right.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
So, having said that, like, are we talking like what got me into music? Are we talking what am I listening to right now? Are we?
So the top 4 for whatever reason
Ugh,
doesn't have to. They're not ranked 1 through 4. It's
You
just your
guys
top
are-
4.
Yep.
do you? It's such a painful,
Yeah, it's not-
painful
Jefferson.
exercise.
Then Washington's my second.
Yeah.
Right.
president. No,
All right. Let me see. So I would say I have to say that I have to get out my iTunes thing so I can look at some.
Hey.
Kiss has to be on it.
I was gonna say it has to be on there.
It has to. Kiss is the reason I got into music. I was 6 years old when I got my first Kiss record. Saved my allowance for 2 months and I bought it. Still have it. I have a Gene Simmons tattoo for fuck's sake. So, I don't support a lot about them, but from 73 to 83, yeah. Mostly fucking great. Okay,
Yeah.
so I would say Kiss for sure. Black Sabbath with Dio,
Interesting.
because Heaven and Hell is my absolute favorite Black Sabbath record, and I will die on that fucking hill
Yeah.
that it's the best Sabbath record. But I love all the Ozzy. Well, not all the Ozzy stuff. Most of the Ozzy stuff.
Yeah.
But all the Dio records that are great.
So different too.
Yeah, and like Dehumanizer is like so fucking awesome, and nobody talks about it because it's the worst album cover and logo ever. And it came out like during grunge. So
Right.
like, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So there's those two. I'm gonna just put an artist out because he's been in 2 bands that I really love, but I would say John Bush from Armored Saint and Anthrax briefly. John Bush is absolutely one of my favorite singers of all time, and he's amazing. And Armored Saint's coming to Reno, opening for Wasp, and that's going to be amazing.
The last one's a doozy.
Always, every time.
Yeah, because there's a lot of ways I could go, and it's obviously this is just my top 4 in this really painful, straining moment. Probably Motorhead.
Yeah.
They paved the way for a lot of bands.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
both punk,
Everything.
metal,
Everything.
grunge.
They were
you name
the
it.
unifying force in the musical universe at the time because the punks liked it,
Yep.
the metalheads liked it, rock and roll guys like it
Yeah.
because
the grunge scene was
thrash guys
inspired by
loved
it.
exactly like Motorhead was never a heavy metal band; they were always a rock and roll band. They just did a lot of speed.
Yeah.
And Lemmy, I think, was actually the last true rock star to like real like dyed in the wool pirate life rock star that we'll ever see.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever going to touch that because he was genuine. I mean, he played a show like a week before he died,
Yeah.
and he still lived in that shitty apartment right above the rainbow, and like he never changed.
Nope.
And Motorhead
always
never
Lemmy.
changed either.
Nope.
It was just, I remember being at the record store and people were like, "How's the new Motorhead?" And I was like, "Well, do you like them?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, then it's good.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of fucking question is that? Like, you like Motorhead? Yeah, I like Motorhead. Well, then it's good.
Right.
Do you not like Motorhead? Probably don't bother.
Right.
If they haven't gotten you yet, they're not going to today.
Nope.
So I guess that, yeah, probably. I mean, there's a ton of other bands. Crowbar is a huge influence on me. You can hear it in all the riffs and stuff. But I mean, goddamn.
So limited,
I could make like a top 50 and still be
Easy.
like,
Yeah. There's
and it really does fluctuate day to day. If you ask me tomorrow, it could be
totally different.
at least partially
I
different.
was gonna say some of those might have been pretty much.
They're audibles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just calling it audible because there's a lot of stuff that, I mean, I was trying to kind of be broad
Right.
because, right now my top 4 would be really different if you go by what I'm actually
No.
listening
I
to.
think the beauty about doing it at the moment, though, is it's instinctive.
Well, and you can watch people squirm.
Yeah, right.
Which is good for content.
That's great content.
Yeah. I respect that. No, I fucking ever since we got this locked down, I was like, they're gonna ask me that question.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking you should sit down and really think about it. And then I'd be like,
here we
oh,
are.
fucking TV.
Right.
And so I didn't. And even on the way over, I was like, motherfucker. Maybe they won't do it.
Yeah,
They haven't done it. They don't
so close,
always do it.
yeah.
Maybe
And
I'll-
I had you for a minute there.
Yeah. I was like, I think I'm getting out of this.
Yeah.
And it's son of a bitch. It's good. No, good game. Good game.
Definitely. All right, Mark. Well, thank you so much for being on
Thank
here.
you,
Yes.
brothers. I
This has
appreciate
been
you,
awesome.
man.
And again, we hope to hear and see you soon, man.
Absolutely.
This was awesome. There's so much more
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
that,
No,
that we can get out of that bag.
I'll show up anytime, man.
Hell
I got
yeah.
tons of bullshit to say.
Sweet.
And I'm not afraid to.
Hell
We
yeah.
love that.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Awesome.
All
Thanks,
right.
man. Keep doing this. Keep it
Definitely,
up.
we will. But thank you all for watching. This has been another episode of the Dark Figures podcast. We'll see you next time. If you haven't yet, hit that like, subscribe, and that notification bell so you can see when we put out new videos. Until then, see you next time.
See ya.